As I said, we operate an employment agency. Persons come in and register with us. Once you come into the department and you register with us, we would conduct an interview with you and prepare you for any eventual interview we may send you on. Our problem is that sometimes we have a lot of registrants and we are unable to place every one of them. However, as I said before, we have been going out seeking employment so that we can ensure that everyone who comes into the Department of Labor is sent out and eventually gain employment. Yes, there are persons who come into the department and complain that, foreigners getting their jobs. And we have, under the remit of the law, gone to companies, find out what is the ratio between nationals and non-nationals, what jobs are there, and we seek to tell them, listen, we have persons who you can register who are looking employment, and we're hoping that we can get them into employment with your company. Most of the time that the persons who are out there, a skill set sometimes we don't have here. And as I said, those companies are required to advertise the position with the Department of Labor, and as well as in newspaper and other medium, so that before a foreigner is brought in, that a local person can get that position.
Now, the department conducts or has labor statistics. For example, would you have statistics in terms of, for example, the unemployment rate?
This is where we fall short. We have not been effectively able to do a number of statistics in terms of labor force. We collaborate, however, with the Ministry of Sustainable Development Statistical Unit through the means of the labor force survey to determine the number of persons that are either employed, underemployed, or non-employed.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have been utilizing that tool for some time now. Hopefully, with the introduction of the labor market information system, we will be able to beef up more labor statistics coming from the Department of Labor.
Yeah, you have a number of callers saying that they see truckloads of people coming from these hotels, and it seems that you have a lot of immigrant workers and so on. For example, it would be good to have some sort of statistics in terms of how many immigrant workers we have and how many are locals and all that sort of thing, because to clear up some of the perceptions that are there in the society. Now, your work is an extremely important one. You are the Labor Commissioner, or the Acting Labor Commissioner, soon to be confirmed. It's my wish. Could you outline for the people what are some of your powers and duties?
Firstly, I have the right to hear every case coming into the Department of Labor, and to ensure that employers and workers follow the remit of the law. And in exercising the right given to me to ensure that at the end of the day there's an amicable solution resolving from whatever matter is brought to the Department of Labor, I have certain powers. One, I have the right to summon any employer to the Department of Labor and seek to resolve that matter. If the employer refuses, the law says that employer can be brought up against a summary conviction, which can result into a fine or imprisonment or both. The law also says that I have the right to see every material or document in relation to hours of work, records that are kept by an employer, and to summons those record to the Department of Labor. And that employer is duly bound to submit those records to me. I also have the right as a chief labor inspector to inspect any place at any time, whether night or day as the Act state. And I must be able to carry out any inspection. The law says if I am denied access to any workplace, I am to take with me law enforcement. And by taking that law enforcement, I must be granted the opportunity to exercise the right and the power of the Labor Commissioner.
Yes. The Labor Commissioner has quite a powerful role to play. And it only underscores how important we should take the rights and the responsibilities of workers. Work, the human being, is at the center of work. How people are treated is so crucial to the self-esteem and the dignity of the human person. And that is why I think it must be so crucial that workers must have protection. Sure.
Workers do have protection. The law offers them protection in several pieces of legislation, as I said before. One of the main protection that a worker has in terms enshrined in the protection of wages is that a worker and no employer has a right to put his hands into any wages being offered to that a worker has worked for without permission of the Labor Commissioner. For example, if a worker is negligent in carrying out his or her duty and may have destroyed a valuable instrument or mechanism to carry out his or her duty, the law says the worker can pay back the employer. However, no employer has a right to go into that person's paycheck and take it out first without consulting the commissioner. The commissioner, after meeting with the employer and the employer to determine if there was a negligence in carrying out his or her duty, and if that is the case, the commissioner has the right to say to that employer, yes, you can do so, but you cannot do so all at one time.
Right.
The law says you can take out 1/3 of what is owed to you in every paycheck. And so the worker has a right. His or her wages are protected by law. An employer doesn't have the right to go in and deduct anything for whatever reason. The law protects his or her. The law also protects them in terms of giving them 14 days vacation.
Yes.
Work, as you know, can be strenuous, it can be stressful. The worker has that right, and the employer, as the law says, has the right to give the vacation, and in turn, the employee has the right to accept the vacation. And so the law makes provision so that an employer, every year, on his or her anniversary date, receive 14 days vacation. And that is a protection offered to them. And it is also a right and a protection offered to them.
Sure. Now, Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like to propose to the Labour Commissioner
Sure.
3 things. I mean, I don't know if she's aware of these things, but 3 things I would like to say to the Labour Commissioner. Now, Miss, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
A lot of guys work for companies throughout this St. Kitts Nevis. They paid, the boss man take out social security over the years. Then come to find out when they got to check out the social security that the social security are not paid. Then a big shock of their life is that they get that the government pardon that employer. So now the money being taken out, but they are not a member of the social security anymore because they don't have anything there. 2, there is boss men out there who are ill-treating workers because they just tell themselves they're the boss. What they're doing, if you come maybe 5 minutes late, they take out half an hour out of your money. But then minutes to 4 that you're going to work, let's say you're going to work 4:30. Finish work 4:30. The foreman will come to you and he will tell you the concrete truck coming in. I mean, overtime in it. And you will work sometime right up to 6, 6:30. You do it sometime for the whole week, every day. And when Friday comes, you get your paycheck, you see the half an hour out, but you haven't seen the overtime that you put in. And when you question it, this is what he said to you. Well, workers out there want work, you know. So if you ain't want to work, you could go ahead. I mean, that is bad. And next thing again, some of them, you work overtime, you work Saturday, Sunday, holiday. Then the next week when you're going to get paid, what they do to stop you from getting the extra overtime, 1 o'clock they send you home, 2 o'clock they send you home, 3 o'clock they send you home. But you cannot make no noise because if you go to make noise, they will tell you the same thing. Well, we could get workers to work, you know, and we could get foreign workers who could work for nothing. And if we gonna pay them, we could pay them a flat pay. So you better do your work and keep your mouth closed. I mean, them thing is wrong. I would like to hear your comments on them, please.
With regards to Social Security is not under the remit of the Department of Labor, but we work with the Social Security Department, ensuring that when we find out that a worker may come into the Department of Labor with a matter pertaining to Social Security, we will call the Social Security Board and notify them so that the inspectors can go in and regularize this matter. In regards to overtime kicks in now.
We have a call. Working for you, good afternoon.
Yes, I return.
Yes.
Yeah, now, Miss Commissioner, I would like to ask this question. What is the relationship or collaboration between the Immigration Office and the Labor Department Office? And the reason for asking that question, I have known people walk up to me in the square and they said they're looking for work, want to work. And from the accent, I know that they're not from here. And I tell one of them one time, I say, you looking for work? Where is your document? I'm a police. And you know what she said to me? Oh, no, sorry, I don't want to work. So that tells you that a lot of people in this country here working, not paying, not contributing, no social security, and they're getting away with it. And the employers who employ these people here who have no proper documents to be employed, they are hiding them. And so therefore, I would like the immigration, along with the Labor Department office, to go out and clean up these kind of activity that's taking place in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In going back to the issue of overtime, overtime kicks in after 8 hours in a day, or when you reach the end of a work week and you may not have accumulated any overtime within that week and you reach the 40 hours, it kicks in. One thing that I would like people to understand that there is no longer what is called a traditional Sunday rest day. In 2004, the law took the Sunday and make it a regular work day. What we have in the Act is called a rest day.
Here's another caller. Working for you, good afternoon. Oh, there's no caller on the line. Mr. James, you can continue.
If you work on your rest day and you are numerated by the hour or the day, you're entitled to receive double the rate, or double the pay, as some persons would say. If you work on a public holiday and you're numerated by the hour or by the day, you're entitled to receive double the rate for that particular day in respect of the number of hours worked. Overtime is paid at time and a half. And so if you put in, for example, 3 hours overtime, you'll be numerated at time and a half for every hour worked in excess of 8 hours. An employer has the right to numerate a worker in accordance with the law. And if a worker realizes this, they ought to report it to the Department of Labor, because the law is there to protect that worker. And so the worker should receive that payment. And if the employer is not paying it, then the worker has a right to come to the Department of Labor, and we in turn will investigate that matter. Overtime is voluntary, and an employer within reasonable time must tell a worker, we are working overtime, and to ask the worker if he or she can work. Because at times, if you wait until the last minute, the worker is likely to say no. Because, for example, it's a female, she's the head of the household, she has a young child, and the child is in daycare. She incurs a cost in terms of child care, and that worker can say to that employer, no, and should not be penalized. And if penalized, that person have a right to come to the Department of Labor and for us to investigate that matter. Because as I said, overtime is voluntary, and the worker must be given reasonable notice of the overtime.
Thank you. Ms. James, we are out of time. I know that we can continue this discussion for a very long time, but we're out of time. Is there anything that you would like to say in closing?
The Department of Labor is here to assist both workers and both employers. We have a remit under the law, and the functions that we do are there to insist, ensuring that, first of all, there is decent work. Secondly, that the right of the worker is not infringed, and that the worker himself has a responsibility to an employer. And in working together as workers and employer and the Department of Labor is the only way we can ensure that there's decent work and there's harmony within the world of work. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Now, I want to end by quoting something that Pope John Paul II said, again in his encyclical La Boren Exorcen. And he said that through work, man and woman must earn his or her daily bread and contribute to the continual advance of science and technology. And above all, to elevating unceasingly the cultural and moral level of the society within which he lives in community, with those who belong to the same family. And work means any activity of the human person, whether manual or intellectual, whether it's nature or circumstances. It means any human activity that can and must be recognized as work. In the midst of all the many activities of which the human being is capable and to which he or she is predisposed by his or her very nature, by virtue of humanity itself. So as you correctly said, work gives dignity to human beings. When people have no work, when people cannot find work, it is very demoralizing.
Because it poses a problem for society.
And it poses a problem for the society. And the morality and the moral level of the society is then threatened. And so I want to thank you so much today for being on the program.
It was a pleasure.
And I know that at some other point you will come back, because there are always labor issues.
Yes, we all are workers.
We are all workers.
And once they are workers, there will always be issues.
Right. So I want to thank you again so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. You have been listening to another edition of Working for You. I want to thank all our callers. I want to thank all of you who listened to today's program. We continue to appreciate you every week. Tomorrow we will have a rebroadcast on Freedom Radio from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. and on Von Radio from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. I am your host, Lesroy Williams. We will see you next week.
Working for You. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for You is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for You.